Daddy, I need you to hear me to the end before you talk.
Okay, I'm listening. Talk.
It's Auntie Ngozi. I wrote everything down.
I just dey worry small about Adaeze. She don't talk certain things about you.
Which kind thing she talk?
I no fit keep quiet when I see how she dey talk about you behind your back.
Ngozi, I don't know what I would do without you. You will never have to find out.
For 30 years, she was my best friend. She was there when I cried, when my marriage started breaking, when everything in my life began to fall apart. I thought she was helping me. I was wrong. Nobody warned Adaeze about Ngozi. That was the thing. Nobody ever did. They grew up in the same compound in the village of Amaifi. Same red clay walls, same mango tree, same mothers shouting their names in the same breath. Adaeze, Ngozi, come and eat. They shared a sleeping mat for 3 years when Ngozi's father was sick and money was short. They walked to school with their sandals, eating the red part at exactly the same reading. And when Adaeze got the highest mark in class 5, Ngozi was the one who ran home first to tell her mother. That is the kind of friend Ngozi was, or seemed to be. The trouble with a person who has known you since you were 7 years old is that you stop looking at them. You stop watching. They become part of the furniture of your life. Always there, always familiar, always safe. You stop asking why they always seem to be around when things go wrong. You stop noticing the particular way they tilt their head when you tell them something painful. Not quite sadness, not quite concern, something else. Something that would worry you if you were looking. And Daisy was not looking. She was too busy living the life that Ngozi had always quietly, carefully watched from the other side of his mind. Because here is what you need to know about these two women. They started from the same place, but they did not arrive at the same destination. Ade is a married Emeka, steady, hardworking, the kind of man who built his compound wall before he furnished his house because he believed in foundations. They had 3 children. The compound was not wealthy, but it was solid. It was warm. People passed by and said, that family is all right. Ngozi married late and unhappily and briefly. She did not talk about it. She came back to Amaife 3 years after the wedding and set up a shop near the market and smiled at everyone and helped where she could and told anyone who asked that she was fine. She was fine. She was perfectly fine. She was not fine. But you would not know that to look at her. She has spent 30 years learning how to arrange her face. One evening, a Tuesday, the kind of ordinary evening that has no idea is about to become something significant. Adaeze sat on her compound steps and said to her best friend,
Ngozi, I don't know what I would do without you. You will never have to find out.
she meant it, just not in the way Adaeze understood. The first thing that went wrong was small. Emeka's mother, a sharp-tongued woman who had always thought her son could have done better, stopped speaking warmly to Adaeze. This was not entirely unusual. Mama Emeka ran cold and hot with the seasons, but this time the cold lasted and it had a specific texture that Adaeze could not identify, as if Mama Emeka had heard something, as if someone had said something.
Do you know what's wrong with her?
Adaeze asked Ngozi one afternoon, stirring groundnut soup at the fire, her voice low. Ngozi shook her head slowly. I don't know. You know how old women can be. Although Ngozi stopped, Adaeze looked up immediately. Although what? No, forgot it. Ngozi, it's nothing. I heard her telling someone at the market that she thinks you are proud, that you don't respect her position in the family. Ngozi shook her head again. But I'm sure that's not true. You know how these things get twisted. And Daisy was quiet for a long moment, stirring her soup. What she did not know, what she could not know, was that the previous week, Ngozi had stood beside Mama Emeka at a fabric store and said, very gently, very carefully, Mama,
I just dey worry small about Adaeze. She don't talk certain things about you.
Which kind thing she talk?
I no fit keep quiet when I see how she dey talk about you behind your back.
I don't like to carry stories, but sometimes I worry about her Daisy. She complains about you a lot in private. I keep telling her to have more respect, but you know how she is. Don't tell her I said anything. Mama Emeka had looked at Ngozi with the narrowed eyes of a woman filing something away. Ngozi had looked back with the open, concerned face of a devoted friend. And the first crack appeared in Adaize's marriage. Tiny, invisible, the kind of crack that nobody notices and it has been widening for years. Over the next months, other small things happened. Emeka came home one evening, quieter than usual. When Adaeze asked what was wrong, he said nothing was wrong, but his eyes said something different. Adaeze was worried. She could not sleep. 2 days later, Adaeze found out from a cousin that someone had told Emeka carefully, privately, as a concerned friend, that Adaeze had been seen laughing too closely with a man at the market, which was not true. But the person who said it so gently, with such obvious reluctance, with such genuine seeming pain at having to deliver the information, that Emeka had received it like a stone swallowed whole. Adaeze did not know who had said it. She would not have guessed, not in 1,000 years, because the week it happened, Ngozi had come to her compound with a pot of jollof rice and sat with her for 3 hours, helping her sort dried egusi and listening to her talk about how much she loved her husband. She had held Adaize's hand when Adaeze said she felt like something in the marriage was shifting, but she couldn't understand what. Some things just go through seasons, Ngozi said softly. You have a good man. Hold on. Adaeze nodded, grateful. Ngozi squeezed her hand, went home, and wrote in the small notebook she kept in the bottom of her provisions box, the one no one knew about, a single line, going well. 2 years passed. In those 2 years, three more significant things happened to Adaize's life, and Ngozi was present, warmly, helpfully, heartbreakingly for every single one of them. Adaize's sister-in-law, a woman named Shioma, who had always been kind to her, suddenly went cold, stopped attending family dinners, gave clipped answers when Adaize greeted her. Adaeze went to Ngozi, confused and hurt, and Ngozi listened carefully and said, I wonder if someone has been putting things in her ear. Some people cannot stand to see a happy home. She said it with such righteous indignation that Adaeze felt comforted. What Adaeze did not know was that Ngozi had told Shioma over pepper soup at a mutual friend's naming ceremony that Adaeze had been mimicking Shioma's way of speaking behind her back, calling her bush and educated. I begged her to stop, Ngozi had said, shaking her head. But you know Adaeze, when she gets comfortable, her mouth runs. Then Emeka lost a business deal he had been working on for 8 months. A partnership with a man named Donatus, a man from a neighboring village who had visited their home twice for meetings. On the day the deal collapsed, Donatus sent a short message saying only that he had heard things about Emeka's character that gave him concerns. He did not say what things. He did not say who told him. Ngozi sat with Adaeze through the entire aftermath. The crying, the confusion, Emeka's silent devastation. She brought food for 4 consecutive days. She said all the right things in all the right order. And then there was the child. Adaize's eldest daughter, 14 years old, sharp-eyed and quiet in the way of a child who has grown up paying attention to the adults around her. Her name was Chidinma, and Chidinma did not like Aunty Ngozi. She had never said this loud. She was a careful child, but she watched. She watched the way Aunty Ngozi's eyes moved around the room when she visited, cataloging, recording. She watched the way Aunty Ngozi always asked the questions that made her mother open up completely. How are things really? What's going on with daddy? Tell me everything. She watched her until Ngozi tilted her head when her mother cried. Not quite like a person who was sad, like a person who was satisfied. Chidinma said nothing. For a long time she said nothing, but she began quietly to watch more carefully. And one afternoon, when she was helping Aunty Ngozi bring groceries in from the market, and Aunty Ngozi went outside to take a phone call, Chidinma noticed the notebook. She saw Ngozi's notebook left open. She did not take it. She was not that kind of child. But she saw enough. 2 open pages, a list of dates, and beside each date, a short entry. Westlake told Mama O about disrespect. Emeka held market story. Chioma now distant. She stood very still for a moment. Then she went outside and told Aunty Ngozi that the pepper she needed was on the second shelf, not the first. Her face showed nothing, but inside, something had locked into place with the cold, precise click of a door that now cannot be unlatched. Chidinma waited 3 weeks. This is what people do not understand about sharp, careful children. They do not act immediately. They sit with what they know. They verify. They watch for the confirmation that makes the knowing into certainty. During those 3 weeks, Chidinma paid attention to every interaction between her mother and Ngozi with new eyes. She noticed that every time her mother shared a vulnerability, a fear, a worry, a private trouble, within 2 weeks, that exact trouble deepened, as if someone had been given the map to the world and had pressed on it. She also noticed something she had missed before. When her mother was happy, genuinely uncomplicated happy, Ngozi would be quiet in a specific way, a stillness behind the smile, like a person who had wanted something for themselves and found it occupied. 3 weeks after she found the notebook, Chidinma went to her father. She chose her father deliberately. Her mother would defend Ngozi. Her mother had 30 years of friendship in the way. Her father had no such thing. She sat across from Emeka in the early morning before he left for his farm, and she said,
Daddy, I need you to hear me to the end before you talk.
Okay, I'm listening. Talk.
It's Auntie Ngozi. I wrote everything down.
Emeka looked at his 14-year-old daughter's face. Whatever was on it made him set down his tea. I'm listening, he said. She told him everything. The notebook, the dates, the entries, the pattern she had been tracking for 3 weeks. She told him about the market story, and Mama Emeka and Chioma and Donatus, and how Ugozi had been present, warm and helpful. and devastating at every single rupture in their family's life. When she finished, the compound was very quiet. Emeka did not speak for a long time. Then he said, "Why didn't you tell your mother?" Chidima looked at her father steadily.
Because Mama loves her, and love makes people argue against their own evidence.
Emeka was quiet again. Then he stood up. He did not go to the farm that morning. He went instead to visit Donatus and Shioma and his own mother. He asked each of them one careful question. Who told you? By evening, he had his answer. The same name, 3 times. He came home and sat down on the compound step next to his wife as his son sat over Amaife. He did not begin with an accusation. He did not begin with anger.
Adaeze,
He began
I need to
with,
tell you a story, and I need you to hear it the way Chidima heard it, all the way to the end, before you say anything.
All right.
she said. Adaeze did not speak to Ngozi for 2 weeks after that evening. She did not comfort her. She did not send the message. She went over every memory she had, 30 years of them, and held each one up to the light of what she now knew. The way you hold cloth up to sunlight to check for damage. And the damage was everywhere, everywhere. In things she had dismissed as bad luck, in arguments she had assumed were her own fault, in distances that had opened between herself and people she loved and that she had never been able to fully explain. It had been Ngozi, always, quiet, efficiently, lovingly, Ngozi. On a Sunday afternoon, 2 weeks after the conversation with Emeka, Adaeze walked to Ngozi's shop. Ngozi was behind the counter when she arrived. She looked up and smiled. The wide, warm, 30-year smile that Adaeze now understood was a costume. Adaeze, I was just thinking about you. Sit down. Let me get you something to. I found the notebook, Ngozi. The shop went very quiet. Ngozi's smile did not disappear immediately. It took a moment, like a lamp whose oil runs out, the light diminishing slowly rather than cutting off. Then her face became something Adaeze had never seen on it before. Empty, not guilty, not apologetic, just empty. As if the face she had been wearing for 30 years had finally, at this single sentence, run out of instructions. I don't know what you are. The notebook with the date, Adaeze said. Mama Emeka, the market story, Shioma, Donatos, I know all of them. Ngozi was silent. And in that silence, Adaeze saw everything she needed to see. Because the right response to a false accusation is outrage. The right response is, what notebook? What are you talking about? How can you believe this about me? Ngozi's silence was a confession that her voice would have never been. I want to understand, Adaeze said. Her voice was steady. She had practiced this. She had decided she would not cry. Not here. We grew up together. I gave you everything. What did I do to you? Ngozi looked out of the shop at the village path for a long moment. Then she said very quietly, You didn't do anything. Then why? Another long silence. Because you had everything, Ngozi said. The voice came out flat, without drama, the way very old truths tend to come out when they finally surface. You had the husband, the children, the compound. People said your name with warmth. Mine, they just said. She paused. I told myself I was just talking, just sharing small things. I didn't think it would. She stopped. You kept a notebook, Ngozi, Adaeze said. You tracked it. Ngozi had nothing to say to that. Adaeze stood up from the plastic chair. she had taken without realizing she had taken it. She looked at her childhood friend, at the woman who had shared her sleeping mat, whose mother had called her name alongside hers, who had held her hand through every crisis she had secretly manufactured, and she felt something she did not expect to feel. Not hatred. Hatred would have been easier. She felt grief, the specific grief of someone who has just learned that a thing they love very much never existed in the form they loved it. I'm not going to destroy you, Adaeze said. I'm not going to tell the whole village. I don't need to. What you built on envy will collapse on its own. It always does. She picked up her bag. But I am done. We are done. She walked out of the shop. She did not look back. Behind her, in the quiet provision shop at the edge of the Amaife market, Ngozi sat alone behind her counter. There was nobody there to notice her, nobody to hold her hand, nobody to tell things to in confidence, nobody whose pain she could navigate like a map. Just her, in the silence she had built, with a notebook that had seemed for years like power. It had never been power. It had been the longest possible way of saying, I am unhappy and I do not know what to do about it. And at last, she was alone with that truth and nothing else. Mama told me, the person who is always present at your suffering is not always the one who wants it to end. Watch carefully who arrives just after the wound and whether the wound keeps finding new ways to open. Not everyone who knows your story is on your side. The most dangerous enemy is not the one who hates you openly. It is the one who loves you loudly, while quietly dismantling everything you have built. Pay attention to who benefits every time your life breaks down. The answer, when you finally look, is really a stranger. Choose your friends wisely. We are only at the beginning of these stories. Subscribe and walk this journey with me. Mama told me stories. Sit close. Another story is coming.